So in the Smart Edit command, we've also added this new functionality called Join, Relayer and Elevate. For a long time we've been saying that when you extract vector PDF data, you can do it on demand, and it's quicker and easier because you only touch each line once, because as you extract the line you can elevate it and you put it on a layer automatically, so that you don't have to come back later on and elevate it manually, or come back later on and relayer it to your standard layers. So one of the things I found this year while I was training in Q1 was that, why do we do that? Why don't we just do the same thing with the line work that's been extracted from the vector PDF data? So this is an example of a subdivision project where the line work has been vectorized and we've got all our data in our traditional layers. There's a couple of things that we recommend that you do at this stage. One is that you run CAD cleanup and you run the step 3 function, and in here we've added a new rule set called PDF cleanup, and all you do is you pick that and say process layers, and what that does is it puts all of this PDF line work into 4 layer groups. So now we have a fills layer group, a dashed lines layer group, a solid lines layer group, a text layer group, and the benefit of that is that you can turn off the PDF fills and the PDF text to reduce the data down, and maybe just turn off the solid lines, and that shows us just the dashed line work, which in this case includes all of our contours, for example. So this makes it a little bit easier to work with, rather than having to kind of go into each individual layer and turn it on and off. You can now use groups to turn these on and off. Now when you're doing this join, relayer, elevate, obviously we've got now contours that need elevating, and these are on these PDF layers. So if I look at this dashed lines, these are on these PDF layers, and I want to put them on my existing contours layer down here. And I need to do that at some point, and it's easy to do it now while I'm doing everything at once. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the line weight of all the lines on screen here, just to make them a bit easier to see. And now they're easier to see. We're now going to run the next thing we're going to do is run the isolate layers command, which is new this release. So I can grab these layers that the contours are on and then just say isolate layers, and that basically isolates just the layers that those contours were on. Whoops, just do it again. Do that one more time. So I pick these layers, go in here and turn this on, and that isolates the layers that these contours are on. And now we've got the layer isolated. Now we can start the process of elevating those contours. Now with this kind of PDF data, it's not perfect because you don't get a clear isolation of the data. These index contours have got the same line weight as these other lines through here, so consequently there's more lines on screen here than just the contours, but you can clearly see the contours in the data set, so it's easy to elevate and relayer them from here. And of course, as you relayer them, if you put them on a layer that's hidden, then as they get relayered they disappear off screen, which makes it easier to see the other data. So now we're going to go to Smart Edit, which is in the data prep menu, Smart Edit, and in this case we're going to pick the join mode, because we may or may not have to join some of these lines together while we're working, and we won't know that until we pick them. So we're going to run the join functionality here. Now if they are joined together already, you don't need to join anything together, you can then just relayer and elevate as you go. So this is kind of a relayer and elevate as well as join function if you need it. We're going to enable 3D editing. We're going to use this default 3D rules and just say join them together using a simple join. And then we're going to say, okay, what do we need to do here? So maximum join distance is, let's say 0.5 is fine. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to say relayer and set elevation. And relayer, we're going to put these on the existing contours layer. And when we come to elevation, we're going to use the contour mode of elevating. That gives us this increase and decrease functionality in terms of elevating lines. And we're going to set it to the increase mode to start off with. It then says what delta do you want. These are 1 foot contours, so we're going to use 1 foot. And then it says what's your source line. So in here, if we pick a source line, let's say this is the 1040 contour, so if we pick this one, you can see that that needs joining to this line down here, and it needs joining to this line up here. So now we can now use the join function to join it to that one, and the join function to join it to that one, and the join function to join it to that one. And at that point there, this doesn't want to be joined any further, So at this point now we're ready to relayer and elevate this line. So how do we do that? We can use the N key, which is to start a new line, but by doing that it's going to jump me to the elevation field to check the elevation before I start of this contour. So I'm going to choose this as 1040 and press enter. And that contour now has been elevated, relayered and moved onto that layer, and the elevation now has been jumped by 1 because I've got this set to increase, ready for the next contour. So I can pick 1041. Now that contour is pretty good, but it still needs to be joined to this one, so I join it to that one, and then I hit N for new layer, and it's 1041. Now we're ready for the next contour, 1042, wherever that is. This is the 1042 contour here, I think. So let's grab this one. That one goes all the way to here. It needs joining to that piece, and it goes all the way up there. So N for new layer, and finished. 1043. Pick the next one. This is the 1043 contour right here. This needs that little bit there added to it, and it needs a little piece up here added to it. And now it goes all the way to the end. New layer. Done. Now we can get into 1044. N, enter. New 1045 and enter. 1046 and enter. 1047 and enter. 1048 and enter. 1049. This one needs joining to that one and enter. 1050. That's that one. 1051. 1052. Now we can get across to these contours over here. Now this one is 1044, so I want to get that back down to 1044. So how do I do that? If I use the Shift X key, it pops up a little keyboard and we can just type in 1044, enter, and now I'm ready to go again. So now I'm going to pick the source line, and that's already joined together. No need to join anything, maybe this piece up here, and enter. Now ready for the 1045 contour. That's that one to that one. And enter. 1046. And enter. 1047. And enter. This one down here is a 1044 contour. So I can either use that Shift X again, or if I want to, I can just use the Z key and just keep moving the Z key down until I get this down to here. So Z is decrease, C is increase. So you can change this, and the update on the cursor happens when you move the cursor. So I'm on 1044 and I want N, enter, and that's done all of the contours over here. Let's just finish up these ones over here. So I want to go 1038, so Shift X, 1038 resets the counter, and so 1038 and enter. 1039 and enter. 1040. Now that 1040 contour is good, and enter. 1041. This one needs joining, and enter. Now I'm over here for this contour here. This contour here is the 1039 contour again. So I'm going to do Z 3 times, and it takes me down to that. That contour is complete, I think. Yeah, and enter. And now pretty quickly there we've elevated and relayered most of the contours here. This is the 1039, so this must be 1038. So ZZ takes me down, N, enter, and then Z takes me down to here. Now if you were up here and you wanted to reverse the direction, you could do the Shift Z, and that would change it to decrease mode and decrease the value by 2 deltas to get to the next elevation. And enter. So now we've done all of those contours there. Everything on that is elevated, and you're ready to go to the next level, which is to do the design contours. So then we would unisolate and do the same thing again. So in this case I just unisolate the layers, which is on Control 1 or the button up here, and then I can say turn off the dashed lines. Let's turn on the solid lines now, and there's the solid lines. And again, if we're now ready to do these guys, we can now grab these contours here, isolate those. That isolates the bulk of the data on that layer, and now we can start the contours here. We can say I want to put these on the FG contours layer, and now I'm going to say single elevation contours again, same delta, and now we start all over again. So we now say we're going to start here, Shift X, we start on 1029, and we're increasing. So now we're on the first contour, 1029, and enter, 1030, and enter, 1031, and enter, 1032, and enter, 1033, and enter, 1034, and enter. Now we're on to 1035, and enter. These two lines around here are a little trickier because these are in straight arc, straight arc, straight. At 1035.5, I'll come back to those in a few minutes. We're going to grab this 1036 contour, which is this one right here. So that's 1036, and enter. And this line around here is also 1036. So I'm going to go Z and pick this line, and that takes me all the way around to here, and enter. Now I'm up to 1037, and enter, 1038, and enter, 1039, and enter, 1040, and enter, 1041, and enter, 1042, and enter. Now we get in amongst the pads here. So this is 1043, so this is correct, and enter. This one is 1043. Hit the Z key, click the line, and enter. Again, 1033, Z key, and enter. This one, 1043, so Z key again. And now I want to go down 2 because this is 1042. So I'm going to go this one and enter, then 1043 and enter. Now this is 1044, so this is a 1044 contour around the pad, and this is 1043. So I'm going to go Z to get to 1043, and then I'm going to do N, enter, and then 1044 and enter. Now this one is 1044 again, so Z, and then now hit this one and enter. This one here is 1045, so this is 1045 and enter. This one is 1046 and enter. And you can see here, using these hotkeys makes it extremely quick to get the contour values to be what you want. Being able to see it on the cursor means you can maintain focus on the screen. And now you just basically have to kind of just work your way through this and enter. Now coming down here, this is a 1046 again, so Z, click the line and enter. Click on the line here, this is a 1046 again, so click on the line and enter. This is a 1045, so ZZ, click on the line and enter. Here we've got 1045 again, so Z, click on the line and enter. This one's 1045 again, Z, click on the line and enter. And then Z, click on the line and enter. This is a 1046 and enter. This is a 1046 again, so Z, and then and enter. And keep going up here. This is 1046, so Z, and then and enter. And this one is 1046 again, so Z, click on the line and enter. This one doesn't have a contour around it by the looks of it. This one's 1047, so this is 1047 right here, and enter. And then we're up and amongst the contours up the top here, so we'll start at this end again here. So this is 1043, so Shift X to call up the contour 1043, enter. So we're going to click on this one and enter, Z, click on the line and enter. Click on this one here, this is 1043 again, so Z, click on the line and enter. Get to this one, this is still that, so click on the line and enter. So now we're at 1043, that was not got one, so 1044, that's a 1044 contour and enter. This is a 1045 contour and enter. 1046 contour and enter. 1047 contour and enter. There is a 46 here, so I'm going to go ZZ, click on this line, that's the 46 contour and enter. Now we're at 1047 and then 1048, so that's 1047 and enter, 1048, and enter. And then we're back at 1048 again, so Z 1048 and enter. And that's pretty much, this one here is 1047, so go back down and enter. Now we've got a couple of extra contours on here. This is a 1041 contour, so Shift X 1041, enter, and pick that contour right there, and enter. This contour down here is also a 1041, and enter. And this contour down over here on the main road, this is a 1044, so C and C to get you 1044, and enter. And then down here you've got a 1043 contour, so Z, Z, and enter. And that's got all the contours pretty much done for that road, apart from these little islands in here. These start at 1033, so Shift X and then 1033, enter. And now you can do 1033 and enter, 1034 and enter, 1035 and enter. And this is the 1036 contour here, and enter. And then we're going to go around to this one, Shift X, 1033 again, and then pick this one and enter, 1034 and enter, 1035 and enter. There is no 36 around it, so I've already done it. This one down here is again 1033, so N, enter, N, enter, N, enter. And now we're down to these 1035.5 contours going around this roadway or this bench on the pond here. So when you pick one of these lines here, now you can see that you've got more than one line. So this is where I would switch to multiple mode, or still use the single mode but in multiple function. And now you can pick all the lines that go with that. So I just grab a window around that, and it routes me that contour all the way around. And then I can say N, and I want to type in 1035.5, enter. And then I do the same thing for the next contour, pick one element of it, pick all the other lines of it, that routes the contour for me. And then I want to go 1035.5 again, so N, 1035.5, enter. And that's those two contours done. And so pretty quickly there, if we look at this in 3D now, and let's turn off these dashed lines and solid lines and just turn on the existing contours. There's my existing contour model that I built. And if we look at the other layers here, we can look at our contours for finish grade. And there's our finish grade contour model complete. Got this upside down. There we go. Like this. And you can see these contours are all forming nice pond contours here. And if you're now ready, you could now run build takeoff surfaces, for example, in takeoff, build surfaces, and that will build me my finish grade and my existing ground models for my contours. So very quickly there, I turned my data from 2D imported PDFs into 3D elevated contour lines. Now we can do the same thing for building pads. So let's just take a quick look at the building pads as well. So if I look at my finish grade, I don't have a layer for my building pad, so let's just turn the surfaces off a minute. And let's turn on, go back to the plan view a minute, and I want to go create a new layer, and I'm going to do FG pads, and let's make these red, and let's make them line weight 0.8 so we can see them, and that should be good enough. Let's say these are going to be design, and they contain potential site and boundary layers, and if you want to, you could apply a building pad to these. So I'm going to go to site improvements and pick building pad 10-inch concrete. I don't need that, I can just pick it from here. So now I've got that done, and I can say OK. And so now I'm going to change my layer here to FG building pads, and I'm going to say change this to pad mode. Now when you do pad mode, in pad mode you can set the elevation by elevation or from text. So if this text in the middle here was real text, then I could pick all the pads and pick all the text, and it would let me elevate the pads from the text. In this case they don't have the text, so I'm going to have to type it in. So I'm going to use elevation. If you want to, you can create offset lines, and you can define whether you want the pads to have offset lines on the inside or the outside, and then you can put in your offsets for vertical and horizontal that you might want for those lines. In this case, I'm not going to worry about that for now. I'm going to use elevation formula, and I'm going to say use z plus 1000. That way I don't have to type in 1043, I can just type in 43.5. And now I want to find my line work, so we're going to go to my go back over here to my data prep menu, and I'm just going to unisolate layers here, and now I want to pick one of these lines, or a couple of them, and then isolate layers, and that will show me the building pads that I want to work with, and they all happen to be on one layer right now. So now I've got this set up as I want to go. Now it's just a matter of running through this, and click on the line, and then you're going to say N for new line, and then type in your 43.5. Now you can do it this way with this command. This is 2 extra keystrokes because you have to type N for each one. If you wanted to just do this the quickest way, it would be use the adjust line string elevation command in the pads mode, which uses the same kind of technologies here, but again it's a little quicker because you don't have to hit the N key between each line. But if you're in join and you may have to join some of these lines together, then the join mode is the best way to be, and half the time you don't know what you're going to have to do until you get there. So in this case, N, and it remembers the last used pad, N 43.2, and then keep going, N 43.2 again, N 43.8, N 44.6, N 45.5, N 46.5, N 47.3, N 48.1, N 48.8, and you basically keep going through here, N 47.7, N 46.9, N 46.6, N 46.3, N 46, N 46.3, N 46.4, N 46.4, N 45.8, N 45.4, N 45.1, N 44.9, 45.4, and so that's all the pads done. And again, if we look at that in 3D, if I open up the drawing here and just turn on the existing pads layer here, I'm not sure I put it FG pads here, so there's all my building pads. And again, if I put those, they were in my design group. If I now do takeoff surfaces again, those will now be added into my takeoff model according to the elevations of those, and then I would get on to doing the lot lines and the building, the curb and gutter lines and stuff like that. So this mode here, this selection mode, allows you to pick no elevation, which means just join the lines together, don't elevate them. Single elevation, set the lines to be a single elevation. That's good for building pads or for any other line that's single elevation. Contours is very specific because it has the increase decrease functionality. Pads is very specific because it allows you to do the offset lines as well as just elevating the lines. And then variable elevation, now it doesn't ask you for the variable elevation. Variable elevation and no elevation are treated the same way. The idea behind that is that you can join the lines together and get them on the right layer. Then you can come back and use the spot mode of adjust line string elevation to elevate those lines to get them into 3D. So this allows you to kind of select modes of elevating as well as relayering the layers to get them onto the right layers. And this is by far the fastest way to convert PDF vector data into 3D line work data that you can use for your takeoff processes. Okay, thanks.